Hello. Now, today I'm planning on featuring the Tier 9 US destroyer, the Fletcher, since this one is very much requested, quite often in fact, which is a bit surprising considering I figured I did cover this quite recently. Now, I haven't really been able to cover or make as many commentaries as I wanted in the past week because once again, been pretty busy, and I want to highlight something pretty awesome that is happening tomorrow. For those that followed Kings of the Sea, that was played last weekend. Well, three of the four semi-finalists from Kings of the Sea are going to be playing tomorrow, and they're going to be playing against Russia. There is a server clash going down tomorrow at 17 CST, which is pretty much the usual time that my stream starts. But on my stream, we will be watching Europe versus Russia. Another server clash going down. And in fact, there's a lot of prizes available for this. If you predict the correct winners, you need to predict that there's going to be 9 games played. And if you predict the outcome correctly, like say you think EU is going to win 5-4, if you predict that correctly, you have a chance to win a hood or a war spite. So they are going to be among the winners. They will be raffling away 5 hoods and 5 war spites. So pretty good prizes on the line. I think it's only for EU and Russia, these prizes, since well, the clash is between Europe and Russia. But if you want to see the top teams of Europe take on the top teams of Russia, well, tune into my stream tomorrow. That should be quite the hype games indeed. Anyway, moving on to this game itself, since I've finished hyping up the upcoming game. Well, I already know the Kaba is there, but there's obviously a target closer. Once again, thanks to RPF, I know exactly where it is. In fact, my torps are headed out towards the RPF target, not towards the Kaba. The enemy does run double Shima, so I know it's probably one of the Shimakazes that are there. I need to keep in mind this Baltimore though, that's constantly closing the distance. I can't just sit here forever because Baltimore radar is a very real and potent threat in this case. I'm gonna try to push up and see if I can maybe force the Shima out of the camp and maybe in some way secure or at least prevent this cap like that. It looks like he did abandon the cap though. I guess he got afraid because the torps might have forced him out or something, and I have the torpedo glitch. You see those 2 torps in the background? They're gonna sail on forever. I don't think they actually deal any damage, but they're gonna sail out of the map and never run out. And as do spot the Shima, I'm very hesitant to stop here though. This Baltimore is in that smoke, and there's a high chance the Baltimore might radar me. So although I would normally love to stay here and just use my guns, I can't afford to take the risk. With the Baltimore charging in, I have to expect the radar. You can't sit and wait until the radar actually hits you, you have to expect it, and in this case I'm absolutely expecting the radar to hit. Also, on the other side of the map, we have a triple gearing division. So honestly, I'm expecting the other side of the map, I'm expecting my team to be able to push and be able to just force them out of position completely, or well, force them to retreat. And they should have quite a lot of success since the majority of the enemy team is on my side. So my team should have a very easy time of pushing through D and just crushing them on the D side. I mean, they're facing 3 battleships and nothing else. The Kaba is on this side, one of the Shimas is on this side, so they're only facing 1 Shima and 3 battleships, and they're a gearing division, and they got tons of stuff on that side. So I'm expecting them to push through, and considering the majority of the enemy team is on my side, I think my only goal here is to slow them down as much as possible and just let my team do some work and my team push through, since I'm not going to be able to kill all of these guys alone. Even with the help of this Bismarck, the Atago and the Moina are already disengaging, and I can't blame them for that, but I'm not going to be able to able to kill them all by myself, so I'm just going to try to delay and stop them as much as possible. Good ways of delaying is, well, torping of course every cooldown. Torp scare battleships and doesn't want to prevents them from wanting to really push in, and resetting the cap as much as possible also helps. The Bismarck does go down sadly, so now I expect them to start pushing hard. Although the Turpits in the back ate one of my torps, and he had used his repair earlier on fires, I think, so he is flooding to death, I think, which is of course always nice, padding those damage stats a bit. My Missouri tried to rush straight through the middle and he got killed, so we are down a bit, but I managed to even it out with the Turpit skill. so that makes life a bit easier. You can see my bug 2 torps in the background still sailing off. They might be a bit confusing, but this bug has happened in the past. I tried to torp the Yamato, but of course there's that classic battleship sized gap in my torps, so he gets past completely unscathed. The Baltimore is unlikely to be as lucky though. I'm not entirely certain what he's doing back there, but he's gonna eat at least 1 torp. And he eats it on the side. Sadly, not really that much damage. The Fletcher is one of the best torpedo boats in the game though. It launches very stealthy, very fast torpedoes, and the rate at which you can launch these torps is pretty much the same rate at which the Shimakaze launches its torps. So yes, it has a shorter cooldown than the Shima. Shima launches 15, this one launches 10, but ultimately they come out about equal. So just a very, very strong torpedo boat. End up being spotted, and as soon as I open fire, the Kutuzov pops up, so I'm forced to smoke. But I'm gonna see if I can get a few volleys in on this dude. Just harass him as much as possible, and honestly I want to make this Shimakaze extremely hesitant about charging in. Pop my damage con there. In case you didn't notice, I popped my damage con because he broke one of my torp tubes, and I wanted to be able to launch the torps, because if there's one thing I really hate, it's my torp tubes being out of sync. And this means you launch one torp tube, but then you're unable to launch the other one, so you have to wait, and then you end up getting this really huge delay between the 2 torp tubes, and it makes it very hard to launch these big volleys that I like to do, like these kind of volleys where you launch 10 torps at a time, and trying to launch 5 at a time and trying to get a hit every time is highly unlikely, and I just don't like relying on that. I like having them constantly synced, so that's why I use my damage con on it. Worth noting, if your torps are still reloading and they break like that, it doesn't matter if you use damage con or not, they will still go on the full cooldown, meaning you'll have to wait the full duration for them to come up again. So it's only worth using that kind of trick if the torps had already reloaded before they broke. So you have to wait for them to basically become green before you can use them again. This Tirpitz is gonna turn left. He's turning to his right. And look at my RPF. My RPF pointing. The Shima is still pushing. I'm pretty sure that has to be the Shima that's pushing in. So these torps, honestly, they might. I'm actually gonna hit the very. I'm gonna aim for the very left side of the cap. Won't necessarily. The idea here is to go for the dual-purpose torps. So I might hit the Tirpitz if he keeps sailing that way, but it's unlikely. He is turning kind of as expected. I couldn't be certain if he was going to turn or not, since I wanted to launch my torps as quickly as possible, considering I'm trying to stop the push from their side. But more importantly, my RPF is pointing right in front of me, so I might catch the Shima as he tries to rush into the cap to get some cap XP. So yes, as I was saying, that's the whole point of having dual-purpose torps. In this case, I launched at the foe I saw and could use the white line for the predictive purposes, and I launched at the RPF target, which was the Shimakaze. So whenever you can go for I mentioned dual-purpose torps a lot, and the idea behind dual-purpose torps is that you have a chance of hitting more than one target with them. So usually it's worth waiting a few seconds to see if maybe you can line up a situation where you can hit more than one target, because, well, if you get unlucky, you're not that likely to get unlucky twice. And of course, ultimately, when you play a torpedo boat, even one torpedo can have a huge impact, because it forces the repair, and it just has a massive impact on the outcome. Going for the Yamato. Really want to smoke up and deal some gunpowder here, some daka. This gearing smoke has been up for a while as far as I know. He needs to start moving away anyway. He can't just sit in that smoke with the Hindenburg pushing in. Hindenburg might be running Hydro. Yeah, this is starting to look pretty confident. I'm gonna get some hits. I'm gonna smoke up here since the gearing should be moving by now, since those guys are getting very close to him. The gearing, isn't he gonna move? He's too close, so he has to move anyway. He can't just sit in there. I do land the torps on the Yamato as I expect. The gearing is sitting still in his smoke. Well, shit. The gearing is not very smart. That's a problem. That's a serious problem. Because, well, I was hoping to get some spotting from him, but he doesn't seem to understand. He's finally moving though, but I think he timed it. He went too late, and for some reason he's turning into them instead of turning away from them. Is he shooting as well? I think he's shooting as well, so he's probably gonna get killed instantly. So this gearing is doing some very questionable choices here, a lot of very questionable choices, and of course that leads to him getting killed quite quickly. Incoming torps into my smoke, but that shouldn't really be an issue. Let's see, once again, going for the dual purpose torps here. The idea is might hit one, might hit another. But ultimately, I could have gotten a lot more done, and this would have been a lot easier if my gearing hadn't suicided. In fact, looking at the scoreboard now, what the hell, my Kurfürst is rushing through the middle? Oh my lord. See, what looked like, I thought my triple gearing team would have no issues pushing through that side since they outnumbered them so heavily. But for some reason they all managed to, well, die and potato, and now I see Kurfürst pushing up the middle, which baffles me. I have no idea why he would do that against this many ships with torpedoes. I feel like that's just asking to get killed. But I use his spotting to my advantage as much as possible and try to inflict as much damage as I possibly can. Especially getting rid of this Mogami would be good. Getting rid of the cruisers in general would be very good because they are huge threats to me. But this Kurfürst is going to go down very quickly. Issue here is now the Kaba finishes off the Atago, and once this guy Kurfürst goes down, I'm about to be left real alone. I gotta disengage now though, because the Hindenburg is pushing into my smoke, and once again I do not know if he's running Hydra or not, and my smoke is fading out anyway. And he floods to death. As expected, he got completely torped. He got completely torped to death. So my gearing triple division didn't really achieve much. My Missouri ran up the middle to die, and ultimately I'm in a really nasty situation right now. I am playing on NA, that's why my name is clan renamed user, because, well, Wargaming renamed my account, so not much I can do about that. Torps are all being dodged, which makes me think they might have been running, he might indeed have been running Hydro, which made it quite easy for him to dodge, both him and the Tirpitz to dodge all the incoming torps. And now I'm in a really tough position because, well, the Kaba is going to be sailing to B and capping B, and then he will probably sail to D and cap D as well. And I have a really hard time getting to any of the capture points. I can't really get around these, and even if I went around, so if I somehow managed to get around all of these guys and got to C, Kaba will still be capping B, and I can't just go for trying to out-cap them, considering they have 4 ships and they have a 200-point lead. So I need to somehow get kills. The issue is, how on earth am I going to get kills on these guys? And they are even actively hunting me as well. And of course, when you are actively hunting DDs, life is a lot easier for them. Trying to stay as close as possible to the Tirpitz so that he has as little time as possible to adjust his course, but also I need to maintain a certain distance so I don't get seen by the fighter plane. But ultimately, my team has pretty much left me at an impossible situation here. It's going to be almost impossible, especially now the Kaba is, as expected, capping B, and you can see the points. Well, the points gain they get is just increasing all the time. I had an initial idea of maybe trying to get past these guys to D and kill the Kaba, but the Kutuzov is going that way to intercept me, so I'm not going to have any chance of getting past the Kutuzov, and I'd have to fight both the Kutuzov and the Kaba, which is pretty much a death wish. So ultimately the points are gaining points so fast right now that I need to make some sort of desperate maneuver, and I'm looking at the Tirpitz here. If I land a torp, he will be forced to use his repair, and I'm going to land a torp. Meanwhile, while I've been tracking those torps, I've turned around. So, and since the Kutuzov is now sailing away towards D, he obviously wants the decap. I might have a chance of killing the Hindenburg, because the Hindenburg, if he ran Hydra earlier, his Hydra should now be on cooldown. So the goal here is I drop torps on the Hindenburg, and then I try to gun down the Tirpitz. I need some good fire RNG to be able to burn him to death though. But there we go, dropping torps on the Hindenburg. I don't want to shoot yet, even though I know I could start fires now, but if I shoot now, there's a high chance the Hindenburg will turn hard right in towards me, and he will dodge the torps. So I have to give my torps some travel time before I can start firing on this Tirpitz. but with almost all turrets, yeah, there we go. I should be close enough now. So I open up fire. The problem is most turrets these days are pretty much secondary build, so that makes life very hard. My plan does work in the sense that I do kill off the Hindenburg though, but here comes the secondary rain, and this is of course the problem. I do start one fire. I'm hoping to get a second fire, because second fire might be enough to kill him, but not really having much luck. My torps are coming off cooldown, so my plan is I use the smoke to disengage, because there are no more planes, so I can easily disengage using this smoke. And the Kutuzov is too far away, and since the Hindenburg is dead as well, this should give me a chance to maybe land some torps on him. However, quite unfortunate, Kutuzov from across the map gets a fire on me. My fire does work as planned, he can't repair it, so he does eat the Witherer, but at this point I think his repair comes up, and that's kind of the idea. I want to torp him now, but they broke my other torp tube, so I can only get one torp tube off. And at this point the game already runs out. There is nothing I can do. I tried my best, but ultimately it wasn't enough to clinch this game. So this Fletcher game ends in a defeat. Still, almost 600k credits, 225k damage. I did get one of the tasks done, which was also something I wanted. And well, looking at the base XP, it does tell you quite the story. 1.7k base XP, but ultimately somehow my gearing team got eaten alive by the Kaba, which I don't really understand how, considering they have such a huge spotting advantage against the Kaba and they can just smoke up. And I don't know, somehow they got completely destroyed by the Kaba. In fact, my entire team that had such an advantage on the other side while I was slowing down this side somehow got defeated by vastly inferior forces, basically. Also, it didn't help that I had a Missouri running up the middle to their side getting killed, and then I had a Kurfürst running down the middle back to our side and getting killed. So decisions like that doesn't make life exactly easier for me. So it does end in a defeat. Looking at detailed report, surprisingly little main battery damage. In fact, this was almost fully torpedo focused this game, and that's kind of why I wanted to feature it, because sometimes you don't really have an option to use the smoke and shoot. Mostly here because, well, there was the Baltimore threat, and the times when I did smoke up, I didn't really have anyone spotting. I was hoping I would have the one gearing spotting because, well, he was being rushed by the Hindenburg, which means if a Hindenburg pushes towards your smoke, you need to disengage before 6 km or you run the risk of being hydroed. But my gearing didn't understand to disengage, and then when he did disengage from the smoke, he rushed into them to die, which was just super questionable. So ultimately, very little gun damage, but this game kind of shows that even if you can't use the guns on a Fletcher, it's still an absolutely fearsome torpedo boat. Anyway, I don't think there's any need to feature my build in this one, since, well, you can find my build in pretty much any gearing turrets or USDD gearing Fletcher or any USDD commentary, since I pretty much use the same USDD build on all of these. I can link my previous Fletcher commentary. I'm probably using the exact same build still. Anyway, that was all for me, and I hope to see as many of you guys tuning in tomorrow to watch Europe take on Russia for the server clash. Anyway, talk to you guys later. Have a good one.